Today we're joined by multi-talented and award-winning actor Neal McDonough, who can be seen in a multitude of Hollywood productions. Trained at the London Academy of Dramatic Arts and Sciences, Neal has been fan favourite since his breakout role as Lieutenant Lynn Buck Compton in The Band of Brothers, and has been featured in popular shows like Justified, Van Helsing, Altered Carbon and Suits, as well as films including The Warrant Red, Minority Report, and his role as Timothy Dum Dum Dugan in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Most recently, Neal delivered a standout performance as Malcolm Beck in Yellowstone, acting alongside Kevin Costner. Above all, Neal prizes his relationship with his wife Ruvé, their 5 children, and his devout faith in Jesus Christ. And to give us an insight into his career of starring in over 120 films and television series, as well as an insight into the Hollywood industry and his faith, we are now joined by award-winning actor Neal McDonough. Neal, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me on the show. Boy, that is quite a resume. I'm not very person who kind of looks backward. I'm always kind of in the present or looking forward, but whenever I hear a list like that, I'm like, oh, okay, wow, I've been very blessed in my life, for sure.
Oh, well, bless you. Thank you so much again for joining us on Revelation TV. Now, Neal, can you please just take us back to the beginning of your career? Where did it all begin and why did you choose acting?
It all began with Your Good Man, Charlie Brown, when I was Snoopy in high school. I was 14 years old. And I had 5 older siblings. I was trying to figure out what was going to be my road to take and my path and such. And I got on stage and I did Snoopy on opening night and I got a standing ovation. I thought, oh, wait a minute, I'm pretty good at this. But it wasn't even so much that part. It was when the audience was giving their all, then it forced me to give my all and then some. And I think that's kind of been my work ethic. You know, with every character that I play, that's why I really don't watch my stuff, because I don't want to steal from one character and infuse it into a different one. I want to try to make all my characters as fresh as possible for the audience. And, you know, my dad always said, if someone gives you $1, give them $2 worth of it. And I kind of pride myself on working extra hard on everything because I don't want to let the audience down.
Growing up as a child, did you always look up, were you into films and movies, and did you always see yourself as an actor? How did you feel as a youngster?
When I was a little kid, I saw Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, and I said, that's what I want to do. Couldn't understand how, couldn't understand what I was, wasn't even 10 years old at the time. Probably 8 or 7 or 8 at the time. And I snuck into the cinema with my brother Gerard, and we saw the film, and I was like, wow, there's something really just awesome and magic about movies. And then I kept watching more movies and TV shows, and it just seemed like the natural progression for me. It's the only job I've ever had is in acting. So I was blessed at a young age to find out, the gift that God gave me. I'm a really good actor. It doesn't make me special. I have to work extra hard at being a good human being. But as an actor, I have all the gifts because that's what God handed right in front of me, and I'm not going to let him down either. So I'm a very blessed guy to be in the position that I am. Here I am talking to you on your amazing show, talking about my film career and my new film, The Shift, that just came out. So I couldn't be happier. And thank you for having me on the show again.
Thank you, Neal. We appreciate you being with us as well on Revelation TV. Now, what were your parents' reaction when you said you wanted to become an actor? Were they supportive, or did they tell you go back to school, do your studies? What was their reaction?
Well, my parents were straight out of Ireland, right into Boston. My dad went, as soon as he got off the plane, walked into the Army office and said, make me an American. And he went overseas for 5 years, became an American citizen, and he was so proud to be an American. And again, it goes back to that work ethic. He worked so hard. But I think having 5 older siblings, he worked so hard with my mom on who's going to be a doctor, who's going to be a lawyer, who's going to be this, who's going to be that. And by the time they got to me, they're like, oh, I'm tired. All I ever did working at my parents' motel was, ever since I was a little boy, I was always showing rooms or putting on shows for people staying at the motel, or singing and dancing or making a fool of myself just to get people to laugh. So I always loved being in front of an audience. I'm by nature, I'm much more of a shy person. So I have to force myself to put on a persona. But once I get into it, the nerves are gone, the tension's gone, and I just become this other character, this other being. So I get to really kind of think of new thoughts that I never really would have thought of as Neal McDonough, or sometimes as a method guy, dig deep into my soul and pull out stuff that I never would have addressed had I not been a creative person and an artist. So it's at times it can be very difficult digging up all that stuff to make great characters, but at other times it's just glorious that I get to kind of psychoanalyze myself with every character. That's kind of awesome.
That's so interesting that you say growing up you were very shy, but yet on the other hand you were a bit of a performer as well. So where did you get that confidence from being a shy person to all of a sudden getting up in front of people and entertaining them? Where did that confidence come from?
I think my mom was really kind of hammered home, a few things. If you believe in yourself and don't worry what other people think, great things will happen. Importantly, if you have a great faith in God, then He will always have your back, and you can go for things that most people wouldn't try to go for, wouldn't have the confidence to go for, like becoming an actor. Who the heck would from small town Massachusetts to, as you just said, doing 120 movies and 1,000 hours of television, and this and that. It's, the only way you get there is through confidence and faith. And luckily I had both. I mean, I know some people who are really, really talented who don't make it. And I know some people who are really confident who don't make it. And both can get kind of to a certain point, but at some point you need to have both. And I was fortunate enough to have a mom who instilled in me to have that faith. And then when she passed away, I went through a very difficult time. Okay, who's my touchstone? Who's my rock? And then I met my wife, Ruvé, and she became kind of my everything, my compass, my wind in my sails, all that stuff. She made me believe so much more in myself. She saw everything that was in me, but still needed to be pulled out. And slowly over the last 23 years, she's pulled out a heck of a lot of great stuff. And now that we're producing our 5th project together, to get to produce films with my best friend and love of my life, and get to tell the story I want to tell that have a faith-friendly backdrop to all of our projects. Look, we did a movie called Boone. It was our first movie that we produced together and raised financing for. And it was about a hitman who finds God.
Wow.
So I like to delve into, I don't want to say darkness, but issues, real human, real life issues, and how do you get through it? And the end of our films are basically you get through it with faith in Him, knowing that He'll always have your back. And to do a project like The Shift for Angel, these people, what they do at Angel Studios is just magnificent. And Ruvé and I have a first look deal, meaning that everything we create or find or have as a title, we bring it to them first, and they get the first chance to make it or not. And all the projects that we make are really kind of aligned with the thought process of Angel also. So I think this is going to be a really great relationship for years to come. But again, back to The Shift, through Angel and through Ruvé and I helped produce the film. We're so proud of what this film stands for and what it tells in a story, because as we all know, Hollywood for some reason has decided to delve into really darker stuff. And I'm guilty of it, as I've said. I've been in some pretty crazy stuff as an actor. Got to provide for 5 kids and a beautiful wife, right?
How did that feel for you when you were going into that? Were you in a little bit of a dilemma at that stage where you were doing certain films that didn't quite agree with your faith, your background, and your beliefs? Was that a struggle for you?
No. It's, years ago when I wouldn't do a certain thing, that was a problem for me, because I won't do sex scenes. So, that means I'm going to be the best villain on the planet or a soldier in the middle of nowhere. And that wasn't so much about religion. That was just so much because I love my wife and I didn't want to put her through it. I've seen so many of my actor friends who have gone through it, and it's difficult. It's hard, and it separates a lot of marriages. And I didn't want to do that. I mean, I love acting. I love producing, being in movies, but it's not even close to how much I love Ruvé and our kids. So, but now that I get to do the films the way that I've always wanted to do it, look, I get to have the next one is called The Last Rodeo. And John Avnet, who directed Fried Green Tomatoes and a gazillion other things, is directing it. And this is going to be the first time on screen where I'm going to kiss another woman on screen. And it's because I have a wife in the film. She's passed away 15 years ago, and they're quick little flashbacks. And those flashbacks are going to be played by none other than my wife, Ruvé. So really enjoy those kissing scenes that day. I'm telling you right now.
And I have to say, you're very public with your feelings and your relationship, because I see your Instagram, your social media, and it's so refreshing to see someone in your position as well who kind of honors your wife as well. You respect her, but just show the love and the caring as well, which is so needed during times like this. So that's so lovely. But going back to the beginning of your career, can you just explain to our viewers the journey that you took to kind of to make it to the top, or to make it where you are today of over 120 films and TV series and everything else? At the beginning, was that difficult? Was it a difficult industry for you to get into? Was there a competition? Was there a lot of knockbacks? Give our viewers an insight.
It's the dumbest profession in the world to get into. The odds of you getting in one film is so slim. It's great. They don't tell you that when you're at Lambda or at Syracuse. They don't say, well, guess what? You're probably not going to make it. Actually, they back then they did. They don't as much now. Back then, like at Syracuse, which was the best theater department in the country at a university, if you weren't doing very well in a scene, right in the middle of the scene, the director, who was from the actor studio, would pluck you out and say, you shouldn't be in this program, go and become an accountant. And it was cold.
Wow.
And I saw people lose their marbles. But we started with 99 kids as freshmen, and by the time in our fourth year, at the end of our senior year, we were only left with 11 kids in the graduating class because everyone else got cut.
Wow.
So it taught us really early on. I guess, yeah, they did teach us how cutthroat it was. They don't do that anymore, because I don't think kids would really understand that. It's a really different time now. But when I first started, my first audition was Lou Gehrig at Babe Ruth, and I got it. And I thought, wow, this is pretty good. And then for several years, I was always working, but there were guest stars or smaller parts in movies, and then finally I got First Contact, and I thought that was going to catapult me up to really getting big work. And it didn't for some reason. Then I did Ravenous, and that didn't do very well in the box office. And I kind of second guessed everything. And I went back to my home back in Cape Cod, and I thought maybe I should just do local theater. I've done great for several years in Hollywood, and nothing to be ashamed of, some stuff to be very, very proud of. So, and I went back, and then as soon as I got back to my home, I got a call from a friend of mine saying, Steven Spielberg's looking for you for the show called Band of Brothers. Wow. They're looking for you. When's the audition? He goes, in 2 days. I'm like, okay. Got on a plane and flew out. I got a one-way ticket to, because I read the book that night, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my wheelhouse. I can feel this is going to be a seismic shift. And after staying in my buddy's apartment floor for several months, the audition process for Band of Brothers went on for 6 months. And I finally got the part. And then the first night I got into town in England, when we did Band of Brothers, I met my wife, Ruvé, at 57 German Street, and 5 kids and an amazing life.
Amazing.
So I was always working. I just never got to that. It was always because I have such a specific look that I wanted to go out to become a comedian. They're like, yeah, you don't look funny. The soldier. But I never got the great break, that great part that kind of catapulted me over everything, and that was Band of Brothers. So there's a reason one of our daughters is named London, because that's where I met my wife. That's where I went to school. That's where I shot Band of Brothers. That's there's so much that I love about London that I can't even get. We're supposed to be there this week, but we couldn't make it. But I can't wait to get back. I miss that place like crazy.
Oh, beautiful story there. Now, Neal, just tell our viewers, you talked about faith was introduced by your family from a very, very young age. With your mother was very strong with faith as well. Tell us about the importance of your faith, especially going throughout your entire career. What does Jesus Christ mean to you?
There was something about St. Peter's Church in Boston that I went to as a kid that was just so inspiring to me, and I couldn't really understand why. And I always had a good relationship with God, and it finally wasn't until I was about 16 years old, I went off on this religious retreat in high school, that I realized, oh, that's what it is. That's what's been in my brain all these years. I just couldn't let it manifest into an actual thought of how much the Lord loves us and how much he gave for us. And every time you look at that cross, you have to realize he made the greatest sacrifice of all time. How dare us, as his children or his brothers and sisters, not make those sacrifices for him? And That's when it really changed. Instead of making it about me and things, I made it much more about everyone else around me, serve those better. As an actor, how to be the best actor so I can serve the production better. How I can be the best dad so I can serve our children better. How I can be the best husband so I can serve my wife better. All these things that never would have happened unless I went off on that great retreat. It may have happened at some other point, but I was just fortunate that it happened then. And right in the middle of high school, where you're wondering, high school can be a really challenging thing, the emotions of high school and what you're going through. What are you going to be when you grow up? What are you going to be when you grow up? What are you going to be? And it's like, oh my gosh, all I want to act. That's all I want to do is just act or play baseball. And I think it gave me that focus of, these are my talents in life. Go be the very best you can at these talents that God gave you. And I did. So my first movie was a baseball movie, and did a lot of sports things to start with. So my sports background truly helped remarkably well for where it all went. So I think the faith was always there with me. I always had a good speaking relationship with God, but it really got a whole lot deeper after that religious retreat. And yeah, I wouldn't be here today without that. That's for sure.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that with our viewers, because it's a difference of it's wonderful that you're attending the church and you're reading the scriptures, but it's also about the relationship with Jesus Christ at the same time as well. It's trusting in him, having that faith in knowing he's going to give you the blessings and the peace in your life. Tell us a little bit about what Jesus Christ means to you personally.
Well, it's a strange world right now. You're not really allowed to talk about a whole lot of stuff without seeming to offend somebody. And,
Yeah.
and you at some point you have to kind of look at that cross yourself and say, if I'm truly going to be a disciple, if I'm truly going to be, we all say, what would Jesus do? Well, if you're truly going to live that life, you can't really care so much. Give to Caesar what Caesar's. Do all the things you're supposed to do legally. Pay attention to those 10 commandments. If you're a Christian or not a Christian, if you're Jewish or not Jewish, if you're just a smart human being that cares about humanity, just pay attention to the 10 commandments, and you'll do pretty well in life. Pretty simple. But to walk the life that Jesus walked, to stay away from and it's hard to stay away from temptations. I had a problem with alcohol, and I gave it up 8 years ago. And I wouldn't have been able to do it without my relationship with God and without Ruvé giving me the support to be there for me. And that was hard as a young Irishman. It's hard to get away from the things that are just part of your culture. And being out here in Hollywood, it's here, have a drink, have another drink, have another drink. Before you know it, the pattern just continues. And you have to find that inner strength to finally say no to those temptations in life, whatever your temptations are. And it's hard to. And I don't think I could do it without having the relationship I have with the Lord. I can't imagine it's even possible. Wow. So I'm blessed at a young age that I've had a bazillion conversations with Jesus, and I know he's listening to them all, and he gives the answers every time. Sometimes as humans, we don't see the answers. We don't like the answers. We think the answer should be something, more positive or more uplifting or happier for our lives. Sometimes that's not what our call is. So, I've been through some very difficult, hard times in my life, as have everyone else who's watching right now. But to have that faith in God, knowing that he has your back, that he allowed his son to die for us, for our forgiveness of sins, and that his son did it willingly for all of us, kind of puts you in a space of humility, that someone gave everything for you, literally for you, and that person was Jesus Christ. And that's a pretty incredible act of courage that no one could possibly fathom, but he did it for us. And the least we can do is be nicer to our brothers and sisters, whether you're a Christian, Jewish, Muslim, agnostic, atheist, Buddhist, it doesn't matter. We're all children of God. So since we're all in the same family, we should be just rooting for each other more instead of trying to take each other down and dividing countries. And it's just a very confusing time. So for me, the only way to kind of block out that confusion is get back to the basics, which is honor thy neighbors, love God, follow the commandments, and be the best version of you possible.
Wow, honestly, you're giving me goosebumps there, Neal. Honestly, what you're sharing is so inspirational. Thank you so much indeed. Now, you also portray Jesus in the Truth and Life dramatization audio of the New Testament Bible, which is 22 hours celebrity voiced with fully dramatized audio of the New Testament. Tell our viewers, why did you decide to get involved in this particular project?
That was the hardest thing I've ever done as an actor. It was to be in the, well, first of all, how do you set a voice to Jesus Christ? So that was hard, just in that alone. And then once I started talking, I just, would be in the booth. I mean, this just took a gazillion hours to do. And I'd be in the booth, and, when I was doing the crucifixion, it was so emotional. It was because I could feel him inside me, or me inside me saying, "Don't mess this up. You gotta do this right. Do it." But as soon as that thought went into my head, all the tension was gone, and I could feel his spirit in me, just kind of holding me and getting me through. That, I mean, could you imagine? It's what you mentally have to put yourself through as an actor just to even fathom, to even come close to understanding how Jesus did what he did for us, is just so emotionally crippling. And at the same time, to the glory of being able to tap into that at the same time, it was one of those experiences that I will never forget, and I'm so proud of. It was just one of those beautiful gifts that I'll never forget.
Oh, so lovely to hear that. Now, can you give our viewers an insight into the world of Hollywood? What is that like, especially of someone of faith like yourself, and being involved in the Hollywood industry? Can you tell our viewers a little bit about it, please?
Yeah, I think, well, we lived in Canada for several years, and it's about as far from Hollywood as possible. So it was a great place to bring our kids up for 7 years. We just moved back here 2 years ago to California, and I think that all the pitfalls that kids have in California, all the temptations, all the way kids talk, the way the parents talk, it's just different. It's very different. Canada was a beautiful, beautiful place. Shout out to Tawasin, my hometown back up there. It was a great place for them to grow up, and it gave them a great sense of family and a great relationship with God. They went to some great schools up there, and so now they're down here. They see through things a lot easier and a lot clearer, and they're pretty amazing kids. We've been very blessed to have good Christian, Catholic, traveled the world, seen a lot of stuff, types of kids that are, we've moved around a lot too. We're gypsies, we're tinkers, as they say in Ireland.
Yeah.
My daughter, I've been alive for 12 years and I've lived in 10 different houses.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So whatever it is, always on the move, because dad's, makes movies, and now he makes movies with mom. So we'll go on for a couple of months, and you're homeschooling, or you're working in the stunt department or the craft service tables, or you're working on set because we're going to make you work. And we might give you roles in the film, a couple lines here and there, and start to build and see how you do on that. And I think what we're doing is put together a bunch of creative young kids that want to probably be in this business somehow, but understand the faith side of how dad's doing it, and the way that I'm doing it. And they're pretty proud of their mom and dad, that's for sure.
Beautiful to hear. Thank you, Neal, for sharing that. Now, can you tell us about the creative ways that we can be spreading the gospel, especially talking about Jesus Christ through films? I mean, you've just latest release of this Hollywood film entitled Shift, which is a modern day retelling of the book of Job. The film also focuses on hope and faith, but tell our viewers about the importance of these faith-based films, and tell us also more about this particular film indeed.
Well, the Shift in particular, I said this the other day, is making a shift in the way that Hollywood is thinking. And that's because of Angel Studios. So what they did with Sound of Freedom was just pretty miraculous. But what they did with the Shift was made and produced by Angel Studios. It's their first really big budgeted, $7 million film, whatever it was. So not massive on the Hollywood scale, but pretty good budget for an independent film. And what we did is really kind of delved into, instead of the much sweeter, just faith-based fare that we started with. You had to start somewhere with faith-based films, and they started slowly, and now they're finally getting into telling stories that have real moral issues. What's the right thing to do? What is the lead character going through? In this one, he's being tortured. He's Job. And there's the devil, played by me, tempting him with everything that I can possibly give him. And it was interesting when I first got offered the role, I said, no, I can't play the devil. That's just going too far. You know, I like my villains, but that's just a bit dark.
Yeah.
And then I came and we prayed over it. And she's like, you're probably the best villain in Hollywood. You probably have one of the best relationships with God. You kind of have to do it, or these people really want you to do this project. So you'd be letting them down because they might hire someone who doesn't believe in God, who might just be over the top or just pure evil, or you can find a way to bring humanity to Lucifer. And that kind of clicked in my brain. I'm going to figure out a way to bring some humanity, because Lucifer was once one of God's guys. He was so close with God. He just did some bad choices. So I wanted to make sure that there was a moment in the film where you see on Lucifer's face, gosh, why can't I go back to being like this guy, being like Job, and have all that faith in him instead of making it all about me? Clicks back into being the devil again, because I can't. It's too late for me. And that's the sadness of this character, that he, that I played the devil, but I think I played it was one of the most human performances I ever had, because I don't want to see other people get hurt as the Lucifer that I built. When it talks about this one girl who's going to go to a mental institution, I genuinely don't want her to suffer. But some people have to suffer because of a certain agenda that I have. But it was really interesting to play Lucifer this way. And I don't think anyone else would have allowed me to do that other than Angel Studios. And what they do and allowing me to do what I do, to jump into a character and really try to find the truth and something different at the same time, Angel Studios allowed me to do that. And I know in Europe, people are going to love seeing this film, because it talks about life. It talks about, there's a lot of horrible things going on right now. A film that talks about you can get through it if you have faith. If you have truth, you can get through anything that life throws at you. And the devil will throw everything he can at you to tempt you with whatever it is. But if you have faith in him, knowing that he has faith in you, you can get through anything in life. And that's what this film is about. And all the films that Angel and the McDonough Company are putting together. The next film, like I said, Last Rodeo, is about an aged rodeo star who has to go back and ride again. And through faith, he gets back to it. And then I have another Western called The Wicked and the Righteous. That's basically Cain and Abel in the West. That Jim Caviezel is very interested in playing my evil brother in this. So we're on a really great track right now with them. We're doing projects that give glory to him, which a lot of Hollywood just hasn't listened to, but I think they're really listening to it now, because the films are making money, and Hollywood obviously likes to make their money. And I'm fine with that. Go make as much money as you want, as long as I can tell the stories that I want to tell. I've got no problem with that at all. We're blessed to be able to do exactly that, tell the stories we want to tell for you guys.
Great message. I want to say a big thank you, Neal McDonough, award-winning actor, and thank you so much for sharing your personal stories of your own personal faith, your life, your family, but also an insight into the Hollywood industry. And we're praying for you to continue to producing faith-based films as well. Thank you so much, Neal, for joining us. Take care and God bless, brother.
Thank you. God bless. Thank you so much for letting me be on the show.